Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everybody. What's going on? Welcome into Denver Sports Coffee Break. We got D-Mac, Rachel Veal hanging out with you for the next 45 minutes, plus special guests. Stokely and Zach will be coming in just a little bit. But D-Mac, how was your long weekend? How are you, my friend?
Good. I went to two Avalanche games and a Nuggets game. I just can't wait to get to the stock show. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. But my weekend was cool. I have some travel plans coming up as my younger son plays college baseball in California. So unbelievably, his college season starts, Rachel. Are you ready for this? Baseball. Saturday.
Saturday?
Yeah. It's junior college baseball, and he's in California, and you can just do that. So his season starts on Saturday. Baseball.
Oh my gosh. Holy smokes. That's actually crazy.
So
baseball in January.
Yeah, a lot of baseball in January, actually. So anyways, so just kind of a very mellow stay at home. You do anything interesting the weekend?
What did I do this weekend? I ended up going out to brunch because Edward, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us. We ended up going out to brunch, like how I wanted to do a birthday brunch instead of a birthday dinner. So we went to the Nickel downtown. That was fun. We hung out. I kind of hope that I'm like a food critic in my next life because I really do enjoy like trying different foods and such. And I feel like I'm not that you need to be super harsh to be a food critic, but I feel like I'm kind of harsh on restaurants where I'm like, I don't know, like this wasn't worth it. But they did give me a free like brunchy dessert because it was my birthday. So that was cool.
Nice.
Watched a lot of football. We're going to get into all the playoffs because holy smokes, there's so much to get into there. And then what else did I do? Nothing really. I am going to the stock show tonight, hopefully, as long as the weather cooperates. So I'm really excited. We're going to the rodeo, everybody. Let's go. D-Mac, I kind of want to buy like a cowboy hat. You can do the branding of it now. It'd be so cool.
I am shocked you actually don't have a little cowboy hat.
I do not. I have a lot of other hats that I could wear to like work. You've seen them out at training camp and stuff, but I don't have an actual cowboy hat that I kind of want to get.
I've got like 5 cowboy hats in my house.
Are you serious?
Hold on a second. All right.
D-Mac's going to run. It's a field trip here on Coffee Break. We will, just in a little bit, Brandon Stokely is going to join us. We see your comments, though, so keep letting us know. Who would you like to be the next Broncos head coach? As we know that Jim Harbaugh is deciding to return to Michigan. He let the Panthers know yesterday, so he's going back. Here he comes. Here comes, everybody.
All right, here we go. Ready? Now you got to tell me which looks best, okay?
Okay.
This one.
Okay.
Okay. This one.
Okay, that's like a true one, okay?
You got to like that? All right, hold on. From Australia, really, seriously, this one.
Okay.
Or perhaps Black Bart.
You're like a true cowboy over there. Look at you. I like the black one.
There you go.
The black one. It reminds me of Yellowstone.
Rip.
I like it. Keep it on. Keep it on your head.
I'm taking Brandon Staley to the train station.
Oh, we got to get into that. But first of all, we will welcome in Brandon Stokely because there's some stuff to get into when we look at the playoffs, you guys. So I'm actually excited about it. But of course, we do have to talk about Jim Harbaugh not coming to the Denver Broncos, deciding to stay in Michigan. Brandon, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing?
We're good. Do you own a cowboy hat, Stoke?
I do. I own 2 of them. I am from South Louisiana, but I didn't buy my first cowboy hat until I moved up here. I was going to the Kenny Chesney concert. I'm like, I got to get some boots and a cowboy hat. I did, and it was so hot that day. I regretted it. My feet hurt so bad. And then I just went to the CMAs a couple months ago, and I got another hat. So, yes, I do. I do like to put on some if you got some good boots and a good hat, I like that.
You gonna give me a name drop of who you hung out with at the CMAs?
Well,
and if it's not Kevin Kisner, I'm gonna be disappointed in you.
Kisner was with us. So he was the one he fit the part. I mean, he looks like a cowboy. He's a big guy, and he had a hat on too, and he looked the part. He was chatting it up with Cole Swindell and a few other guys. So I was just low key. No big time name. I mean, there was a few people. I saw Hardy, talked to him, Jason Aldean. So it was cool. A lot of fun.
Incredible. I'm jealous. All right. Well, Stoke, Jim Harbaugh is obviously out. So who's your next contestant to who do you want to be the next head coach of the Broncos? Or was it even Jim Harbaugh to begin with?
Well, I was back and forth on Jim Harbaugh. I started with him, and then last week I moved to Sean Payton. And I think I was about to move back to Jim Harbaugh before I got the news yesterday, heard the news yesterday. So I think it's just got to be Sean Payton now. I think when you look at the situation and you look at this ownership group and you look at who's making this hire, I don't think Dan Quinn moves the needle. I think he wants to move the needle here. And the only one left to really move the needle is Sean Payton. And it's going to take a lot of money. There's some competition out there. So it's going to take a lot of money, a lot of years, and you're going to show commitment to this coach and how important that is. And I think he swings for the fences here. So I still think Sean Payton's a favorite. Haven't interviewed him yet. Haven't interviewed Dan Quinn. Those are the two, guys that are back and forth. But I think it's Sean Payton.
My big thing with Sean Payton, and DMAC and I have talked about it plenty, is the first-round pick. Can you afford, with how many missing pieces there really are in this team, can you afford giving up that first-round pick, especially at O-line?
Well, that's all I'm giving up is just the one. And, yeah, you can afford it. Look how bad our first-round picks have been. And it's a late one. So you can't afford it. I mean, do you need a coach? Do we need a coach? How important is a coach? That's kind of what I go back to when I look at the situation. I don't want to give up any draft picks. No, that's not ideal. But I would like to have a coach that I can just say, that coaching box, that thing has a check on it for the next, 10 years, 8 years, 5 years. And we don't have to worry about hiring a new coach in 2 years. This is going to be our guy, and this is for at least a half a decade. So I think that's pretty important. I think we've seen that around here. So if it takes a first rounder to have to do that, then I'll give up the first.
You make a good point, though, when it comes to the picks, DMAC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed by Harbaugh, to be honest.
Why is that hat so crooked? It's like,
oh, sorry. I mean, better?
Yeah, there you go. I like that. There you go.
Thank you, buddy.
You look like Indiana Jones a little bit.
This hat is actually from Australia. It's funny you say that. Actually, that's got nothing to do with Indiana Jones, but the hat is from Australia.
Okay.
Real leather, too. It's a nice one. Listen, Harbaugh was my guy because I think they need a reset of the entire organization. They're not going to get that with Sean Payton. They would have got it with Harbaugh, but Harbaugh's a kook. He always was a kook. He turns out to be another kook. No other teams were interested in Harbaugh, and everybody's interested in Payton. But I don't think he's interviewing the Colts. Arizona just hired a new general manager, which seems to be inconsistent with hiring Sean Payton right now. So you really just have the Broncos, Panthers, and the Texans as Staley is staying. Can you believe it? That's wild. That just proves the Chargers have no money. The fact that Brandon Staley's staying in that job. And then you have the Cowboys, y'all. And you're not going to fire Mike McCarthy now. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
That's ridiculous. So all of a sudden, if you wanted Sean Payton, good things happen for you. You're only competing against two other teams. And that is Dave Tepper, who is a billionaire, second richest owner. But he's like a Budinsky guy. He wants to be involved in your business. And then you have the Texans, which arguably is the worst ownership in the league. I mean, who wants to be involved with the Texans right now?
No, I think you're spot on. Look, if Texans are out, there's no chance he goes to Houston. None. So the only chance that they would have had, maybe if they had the first round pick and he loved a quarterback coming out, but they don't even have the first round pick. They screwed that up. So it's really down to Carolina and the Broncos. And Carolina's situation is better. It is definitely better than the Broncos. You got a weaker division. You have an owner that will pay you a lot of money. He just did it with Matt Rule, paid him a ton of money. And so he's not scared to go out there and write a big check. So that obviously helps the situation. And then the kicker here is, Sean Payton has a blank slate there, whatever he wants to do. And I don't know if that's quite the case here. I don't know what the Panthers general manager situation is right now, but will Greg Penner let Sean Payton, make the calls if he wanted to make the call when it comes to the general manager?
I would expect so. And a little tip off how competitive Carolina's being. They interviewed Vic Fangio, who Sean Payton has already talked about. He would work well together. They interviewed him for the defensive coordinator position. So I think it's going to be tough to beat out Carolina. And Carolina has the number 9 overall draft pick this year. I mean, they even have better. I heard people say, oh, the Saints won't want to trade within their division. I think the Saints are over that, and if they have.
It looks like it.
If they have a number 9 pick, that certainly trumps pick whatever the 49ers pick is going to be, right? 27 through 32, something like that. I think the Panthers, that's going to be a tough one. They got a billionaire owner. He can spend a lot of money, and they're just a better team than the Broncos right now. They've got a tricky quarterback situation for sure, but Sam Darnold did look better. I mean, he looked better than before, and they don't need a first-round draft pick this year to draft a quarterback, not necessarily. The Broncos, listen, man, if you guys haven't noticed, in the final 8 teams, all the quarterbacks are in their 20s. All of them. The average age of the starting quarterback for the remaining 8 teams is 25 and a half years old, okay? The old guard of quarterbacks appears to be done.
Mm-hmm. No.
Well, I mean, I look at the situation with Sean Payton. Also, on top of all of this, is he might not go anywhere. He might just stay at Fox.
Oh,
and
I think he's too far past that.
I don't know.
I was going to say, I thought that was Harbaugh. I thought for sure he was going to go into the NFL. And look, he's returning to Michigan. That was going to be my next question for you. I mean, is there really 100% he is going to come back to the NFL, or is he okay doing what he's doing at Fox? So go ahead, Stoke. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're spot on. I think that's a real possibility here, especially if he doesn't love the situation he's inheriting and he feels like it's a no-win situation with Denver or Carolina, and he's kind of looking to the future and saying, hey, maybe that Chargers job will come open next year. Maybe I'll have a better spot to land next year, and I can just chill out one more year. I look at that Carolina spot too, the number 9 overall pick. See, I would start having second thoughts about that. That's a little bit too high for me to give up for a coach. But I guess I guess if you're in there, because they have a lot of needs too. Now you're talking about a really, and you can get great players all across the board, obviously, but a top 10 pick, I mean, you're really close to the dartboard there of finding an elite level player. I just don't know if I would give up the 9th overall pick.
Do you think that the Saints will have any problem? Say the Broncos and the Saints, figure out. Do you think they're like, 29 or whatever it's going to be? We don't know if we really want that. You're going to have to give up another second or something in that market too.
Well, the report
that could happen.
The report is the Saints. Everybody's on board with what's the compensation. That's the report out there, that everybody knows what it would take and everybody's cool with it. So I don't think that's really the problem. I think I don't think there is a problem in terms of making a trade with the Saints. I think the issue is just what Sean Payton wants to decide on. Because you're right. He can always say no. The trade is only as good as Sean Payton's willing to come and coach for the team. If he doesn't want to be traded, he can just stay retired. Yeah,
and ultimately it's his decision. I mean, he's going to make the call here. And then the Saints will say, okay, well, then that's who we got to do business with. So, the Saints don't have any really say in what happens. They'll be happy with whatever they get. Obviously, if it is the Broncos compared to the Panthers, maybe you have to throw in a 3rd-round pick next year or whatever the case may be. But ultimately, this is Sean Payton's decision to decide. And the Saints are on the sideline here. And I'm sure we'll find out here in the next week or so where he's going, if he's going back. But obviously a big decision here for Broncos country.
Stoke, if you had to guess, what date do you think the Broncos hire their next head coach? Or what day do you think the leak will happen?
Well, looks like Dan Quinn. They're going to definitely interview Dan Quinn, and that's happening Friday, I believe. Is that Thursday, Friday? So How about Sunday, Monday? I mean, you gotta know by then, right? I mean, well, but here's the other thought here. I mean, are we going to have a round two of these interviews, or is it just going to be one and dones? I mean, how is this going to work? I'll say yeah. Let's go Sunday. Schefter on Sunday comes out with who it's looking like the direction it's heading.
All right, sounds good. Stoke, as always, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Howdy, everybody. Howdy. All right. Brandon Stokely, everybody. D-Mac, really, Stoke kind of hit it on the head, though, of you're not getting much out of this pick, so why not give it up for Sean Payton? What's your reason for not wanting Sean Payton 100%?
Oh, I'm fine with Sean Payton. My guy was Harbaugh. I thought he would – listen, the reason I wanted Harbaugh was because I want George Payton to have as little influence as possible, and I want to move on from Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, the most obvious path towards those two things would be Jim Harbaugh. Now, Sean McVay, I think – listen, this whole fix Russ thing, Rachel, I find it laughable. You know, again, look at the average age of the quarterbacks in the final 8 right now. Are you having a hard time
changing your hat?
Is there a problem?
Are you just changing it every single time we do a transition?
No. I'm wearing the same hat.
No, you're not. Continue.
Oh, you think I've been changing my hats?
Continue. Go ahead. Continue. Explain why you think fixing Russ, which I still believe you can fix Russ, but explain why you think it's laughable.
Well, because that's not where the NFL's going. The NFL is going younger, and these guys, they're the new Avengers. You know, imagine and I'm gonna screw all this up, but imagine that Iron Man and Hulk. And, you know,
Captain America.
Imagine they're in the retirement home or going that way. But all of a sudden, there's a bunch of newer Avengers that you've never heard of before that are kind of coming up. And, you know, it's Thanos' kid that they got to go after. And, you know, while the old Avengers were fine, Thanos' kid has powers that didn't exist before. And you're looking for the new Avengers. So while the old Avengers could hang in there for a little bit, to beat Thanos Jr., you need the new Avengers. And that's what the NFL is right now. And we have Rachel, we have officially turned the tide. The final 8 teams is 23-year-olds, 2 of them, 2 26-year-olds, a 29-year-old Dak Prescott is elderly. 27 is Patrick Mahomes, and he's like the oldest guy in the AFC that's left. Rachel, it's crazy. And so the thing about fixing Russ is, how do you fix Father Time? And what are we about to see next year? A comeback where all the older quarterbacks are all of a sudden more successful than these younger guys? I think it was going to happen at some point. And here we are, Rachel. It happened. Aaron Rodgers looks terrible. Tom Brady looks terrible. Kirk Cousins is now done, but he played really well. Their defense sucks. Matt Ryan is a dinosaur's dinosaur. Russell Wilson was terrible. Help me out. I mean, who's your favorite quarterback over 30 years of age right now? Who is it?
This is going to lead me on a completely separate rant real quick. I love this argument because we put these, you know, legacy names on all of these players. Like, should you stop when you reach the top and never let yourself be able to fall down? Because really, like, in my personal opinion, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and I totally understand it, but I think Tom Brady coming back this year really hurt. I know everyone says he's the greatest quarterback of all time, but when I think of the greatest ever, I expect them to be great for their entire career, not to come in and be like, oh, well, I can't play anymore, you know, when I'm towards the end. It's the same way I look at LeBron James, where he was so incredible and so talented, but now he's just kind of gotten in the mix of all these other players. So should you go out when you're on top to remain that quote unquote legacy? Or do you do what we're seeing with all these other athletes where we're watching them slowly fizzle out, and does it affect your legacy overall?
Rachel, it's their lives. And if they want to, you know, remain in a state of arrested development as they pursue something they did when they were a kid, even though they're in their 40s, I mean, I can't argue with the money and how much fun it is.
But just legacy and the way you look at it, has Tom Brady, the way he played this year, has it changed your outlook on the greatness of him at all?
No, and it won't for the long haul. It looks pathetic now.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks bad now. You had a losing season. You got smoked in the playoffs. You play in a bad division, so that's how you got there in the first place. Your wife left you. Who knows what your relationship now is with your kids because, you're divorced. It looks pretty sad.
Personal.
Well, I mean, it's part of the whole thing. And when Tom Brady's up there, like, thanking the media and the local people and this, that, the other thing, it's like, it's pathetic. And I hope he goes to the Raiders. I hope he goes to the Raiders because I have no doubt he will fail with the Raiders. There's not just some sort of newness. Tom Brady is trying to, like, kick guys after turnovers. I mean, he just looked pathetic yesterday. It was a boring game. The most interesting thing about the game was the field goal kicker missing all those extra points. Other than that, I mean, that game was a snooze. I had to use toothpicks to keep my eyes open during that game because it was such good for the Cowboys, good for Dak Prescott and everybody there, good for them. And they'll figure another way to choke in the playoffs. They always do. But they weren't going to lose to that team led by that quarterback, and they didn't. And so, no, his legacy, he's a slam dunk, unanimous Hall of Famer, all that sort of stuff. People won't remember at the end of the day this sad, pathetic season. But let's not get it twisted, Rachel. For Tom Brady, this was a sad, pathetic season for him.
And if he continues, he goes to the Raiders and they go 4-12, you're going to look at him and be like, or 4-12, right? No, 4-5, 4-13.
Who knows, man? It's not going to be good.
Yeah. But that's my point is he goes to another team. He sucks again. He does it again. And he never gets any better. Does that change your overall look on his legacy? Because you're saying that with Russell Wilson. You're saying he's not fixable. It's over. So it's boom, done. It's like dust all of a sudden of greatness.
I think part of Tom Brady's legacy will be the personal battles he went through and that it looks on the surface like he wanted to play football more than be a husband and a father. And whether that's fair or not, and perhaps there's other issues, there always are in marriage, but I mean, that is part of his story that all happened this year. That was his year. He said he wanted to play to 45. Like that's some sort of magic number. Well, congratulations, you did it. And now your family is, gone. He's got another girlfriend. So, I mean, I think Giselle's got another boyfriend. Who actually cares? It's just slightly pathetic in my opinion. It's his life. Do whatever you want. I hope, Rachel, for the record, I hope he goes to the Raiders. Because the easiest way for the Broncos to beat the Raiders next year is playing against Tom Brady.
Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, think about all the years that you circled on your calendar, Broncos, Patriots, Manning, Brady, and those were the big ones that you were like, oh, that's the game we need to go to. Now we're like, yeah, the Broncos might be able to beat Tom Brady. And the Raiders, what are we doing? Jake does give us some great stats. He led the NFL in completions, and he threw for 4,694 yards. And we're saying that this was a sad, pathetic season. But it just felt that way, D-Mac.
It was sad and pathetic. It was not winning football, and the bar he set was high, and he fell far below it. Listen, he's not the only one, though. Like I said, Russell Wilson had the worst year of his career. Aaron Rodgers was absolutely subpar. Matt Ryan's ending his career in kind of embarrassment. This stuff happens. I don't know if Matthew Stafford comes back and plays effective football after his injuries. The time, Rachel, is for the new Avengers taking on Thanos Jr., not the old Avengers. And guess what, Rachel? There's more new Avengers coming out of college year after year after year. So the fact that I think my biggest frustration with the coaching search is we're still going to try to win with the old Avengers. We don't have the old Avengers. We have the guy in the seventh row, with milk duds and popcorn and a big, huge soda pop. He's watching the Avengers. That's our quarterback right now. So we don't even have an old Avenger. We We got a guy who paid for a ticket to watch the old Avengers. That's how bad the Broncos are, but somehow our new coach is going to fix it. Listen, I guess the best bet is Sean Payton, but after Sean Payton, I'm kind of open to anything, Rachel. I really am. And so I've been told repeatedly that Greg Penner believes in Russ, and very significant people that talk to Greg Penner believe in Russ as well. I think it's a mistake, but we shall see. I think they're going to overwhelm Sean Payton with money. And I think the most appealing thing about the Broncos is that Sean Payton really will have an owner who doesn't get in his way. Dave Tepper is going to be and the culture down there in Houston, I think, is insufferable. So I think the Broncos probably do land Sean Payton as I kind of talk myself through it. But we needed to know what was going to happen with the Chargers and the Cowboys. Now we know. I bet you the Broncos land Sean Payton.
Okay. Interesting. If they don't, though, who would you want?
I don't care after that.
Jim Caldwell, David Shaw.
Personally, my guy would be David Shaw. But again, I think we need a culture reset. And I think Shaw is the most likely guy to do it. I think I'm just not in on Dan Quinn. I just don't feel it. I really don't. Another thing to look at these young quarterbacks, look at their head coaches. Only Sean McDermott has a defensive background with the Bills. Everybody else is from a more offensive point of view.
Yep. No, it's very interesting. And a lot of people may have saw that Sean Payton interviewed with the Texans yesterday. And everyone was like, well, wait, they can't do it until the 17th. Just to clarify, it was a virtual interview yesterday. So they were allowed to do it. In-persons can start today. And the Broncos will be the first in-person interview with Sean Payton. So interesting. Do you think it's going on right now? Do you think they're all sitting down with their cup of Joe, drinking some coffee, talking about this?
I think they are. I think the morning was going to be Sean Payton, and then this afternoon is going to be Raheem Morris. And I think the interviews will probably be 3-4 hours long each. And that's all you need, Rachel. Really, seriously, that's all you need.
3 or 4 hours each.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
You were like, oh my God.
What can't you cover in 4 hours?
Gosh, do you really need 4 hours?
You probably don't. Actually, Rachel, you're right. You probably don't. I mean, my interview with Sean Payton might last 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, really, what questions are you asking? Is Russ fictional?
How are you going to deal with Russell Wilson?
Who's your staff?
Well, the draft. You don't have any draft picks because again.
No, I said who's your staff?
Oh yeah, that's right. So it's Russell Wilson, your staff, and I don't know. That's about it.
Culture. How do you take control of culture? I don't know.
Sure. I mean, are you going to take down the basketball hoop in the team room? I guess you can go through. Hey, Rachel, you're not wrong. The whole thing could take an hour max. I mean, maybe a little hey, how you doing? But other than that, yeah. Who's your staff? What will you do with Russell Wilson?
Okay.
That's it.
Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I can't believe we're here. It's been less than a year since Hackett was hired. That's what's actually really crazy. And here we are doing it all over again, D-Mac.
Here we are. Listen, I think they'll give it a good shot. I think because the Cowboys and Chargers are out of it, I think they have the best shot. I think Jim Harbaugh is a kook beyond kooks. The fact that he wouldn't actually be in person and just did a virtual interview. I told you, Rachel, that was one of two things. Either he's already got the job, like it's done, or he's using it for leverage.
But he didn't even get to contract talk. So how could he have used it for leverage?
He just wanted Michigan to, butter him up, and he wanted to feel special. And Rachel, I think he wanted to see who else was biting in the NFL. And the answer was nobody. The answer was nobody. So that's leverage. I'm going to do it. Who else is interested? As it turns out, nobody. And Michigan was like, Jim, we really love you. And he's like, I love you too. And so, he's back there at Michigan. And likely, I think that's where he'll be from now on. I mean, he barely got a nibble this time around. And he's just too much of a kook for a lot of these owners. So I would say this is it for Jim Harbaugh's NFL career. I think he'll probably be at Michigan for the rest of his career.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Let's talk about this past weekend's playoffs game. What was the more surprising game for you? Because obviously the Giants beat the Vikings.
Rachel, no, the Vikings. I never believe in the Vikings anyways.
Really? I thought Kevin O'Connell had really put it together, but it just seemed like things weren't clicking. But
Listen,
Brock Purdy also.
Look how they won games this year. It was like ridiculous.
Crazy.
They won some stupid games this year. Now, the most surprising game is the Chargers and the Jaguars. I mean, what? That was ridiculous.
How Brandon Staley has a job. They fired their offensive coordinator and their passing game coordinator or something like that earlier this morning. And they are set to meet with the media later this afternoon. How Brandon Staley has a job being up 27-7 at half and allowing the comeback that the Jaguars did after Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions is mind-blowing.
It's
mind-blowing.
Crazy. Rachel, all you have to do when you're up 27-0 offensively is just, you don't even have to score. All you have to do is collect in a slow fashion first downs.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you just basically have to hand the ball off or very short throws, screens, jet sweeps. I mean, very, very conservative things. So the even if you don't score at 27-0, if you can, every time you get a possession, let's say you get a possession, 5 more possessions in the second half.
Yep.
Rachel, all you have to do is burn off 5 minutes each possession, and the game's just, 5, maybe 4. 4 5-minute possessions is 20 minutes. There's only 30 minutes and a half. The other team has to freaking freak out and throw the ball down the field. I mean, it is not that hard, Rachel. It's not. And the fact that they couldn't figure it out, it's jaw-dropping. Absolutely jaw-dropping. They couldn't figure that out.
I know. I felt so bad for Justin Herbert. You just saw his face of like, I cannot believe it. And then Trevor Lawrence just running around the field after. You're like, oh my gosh. That's a wild game. The Chargers are lucky they weren't at home. Like, could you imagine going to that game as a Chargers fan? You would just be like, oh, what am I doing?
Well, last time I checked, there's about 8 of them. Chargers fans, that is. So I don't think I'd be overly worried about embarrassing myself anywhere. Listen, that organization, they've got some issues, no doubt about it. But that was a collapse of, it was the 3rd biggest choke comeback in NFL playoff history. 3rd.
Yeah.
So
is Brock Purdy the most fascinating QB in the playoffs this year?
He's a fun story, but the most fascinating quarterback to me is Josh Allen and what's going on with him. Brock Purdy's really, really interesting. But it's a very, very solid team, and he's playing extraordinarily well for a solid team. Mm-hmm. They've done some really smart things there in San Francisco, so good for them. And it does show you, Rachel, that you should always be developing your quarterback room. Don't be satisfied. I mean, why'd they even draft this guy anyway? And that's to fill a role in their quarterback room. Mm-hmm. But the most fascinating story remains the Buffalo Bills, because Josh Allen, although he's an amazing player, the amount of mistakes Josh Allen has made this entire year is stunning. The amount of turnovers they've had and have still won games is unbelievable. And I do give Mike McDaniel a lot of credit for having his Dolphins team unbelievably competitive. They got into a cluster near the end of the game with clock management, and maybe he shouldn't be vaping on the sideline. I'll agree with you on that. But the fact that they were so competitive with a 3rd-string quarterback and pushed it as far as they did was absolutely remarkable. Now, Josh Allen is kind of the most interesting story here because there's more riding on his shoulders, Rachel, than Brock Purdy. Purdy has nothing to lose. All of a sudden you look at Josh Allen like, hey, dude, if you can't win now, when are you ever going to win? So the pressure is mounting on him. So that to me is the most interesting story, although the Brock Purdy story is a great one and fun to watch.
I think it's more interesting because who the heck would have ever thought Brock Purdy would be out here throwing dimes and looking so good? And yeah, he does have a solid team around him, which definitely helps. Christian McCaffrey, I think, has been a major part of that team since he got there. But I would just never have expected a name that we literally didn't even know before the beginning of the season. And here we are talking about him. And it's not like he seemed like he was incredibly nervous on Saturday. Like, he still put up fine numbers for a rookie QB that literally none of us knew about. Like Josh Allen, this is what we're expecting. The mistakes, I agree with you. No one thought that, but Brock Purdy, I just am shocked by him.
Well, everybody is. I mean, it's fun to watch. They're good defensively. Getting Christian McCaffrey with Deebo Samuel has made them a fascinating offense because they have two kind of hybrid running back receiver type of guys. Of course, they have George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the league. And they have a unbelievably solid offensive line anchored by Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey on both of your tackles. So listen, man, if you want to look at a blueprint of how to try to win without a top 10 overall drafted quarterback, look at the 49ers. Look what they're doing. A power game with a responsible young quarterback who can move around and can throw. You can do that. I mean, it's hard, and I think it's a terrible plan, but it's why you should continue to try to develop quarterbacks. That's why Brett Rippon was like such a disaster this year. Like, what was the point in Brett Rippon? I mean, Rachel, that was ridiculous. The Broncos clearly should have been drafting quarterbacks, even though they acquired Russell Wilson. So you draft Trey Lance, and you still draft a quarterback. That's smart, Rachel. That's good planning by the 49ers. And it's another indication of how poor the Broncos have been because it was this open highway for Russell Wilson. No sense of competition and no real good backup plan. And they can't be victims of that again this year. And they got Josh Johnson. Josh Johnson was like a million other teams. You know Josh Johnson is on the 49ers, though. He's like the backup right now to Brock Purdy. Yeah. And the backup to Brock Purdy was the Broncos' backup plan. He's the fourth quarterback for the 49ers now. It has been on like 16 different teams.
Yeah.
That was your plan? I mean, what are we doing here?
I don't know, but it just really makes your heart hurt a little bit if you're a part of Broncos country of, oh, we could have had Kyle Shanahan. Oh, John Lynch was, he was out there. And look at what that organization is able to do. And so it just makes your heart hurt a little bit when I think about, oh, they could have had Kyle Shanahan because a lot of this has to be coaching. Like there's no way that you can go through all of these quarterbacks and still find success and not, really any downfalls to it.
All of this boils down to the Broncos coaching decision and what they're going to do moving forward. So it's with a heavy heart that I say goodbye to my guy, Jim Harbaugh, because I really do think you would have seen the most innovative, creative solutions to the problems. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't as appealing to the safe haven of the University of Michigan. Yeah. Okay, you got used, a little bit. It's really no skin off your nose, though. It's really not that big of a deal. So while I do think the Broncos were leveraged, it wasn't a lot. I mean, it was a 2-hour Zoom interview, Rachel. It's not like they had everything lined up or were counting solely on Jim Harbaugh. They weren't. I like the fact it opened a door for David Shaw, who I'm a big fan of, and we'll see from there. And we just want the best for the Broncos in terms of how they're moving forward. So I'm just going to say this. I mean, if you want to give up a first-round pick for Sean Payton, I don't even care because it's not, to me, about 2023. It's about 2024 moving forward. And listen, I don't know, Rachel. It's not a great strategy. There's a lot of hope and luck. But maybe you can find a Brock Purdy in this draft. Maybe it is Hendon Hooker in the 5th, 6th round. Maybe it's, I don't even know who. Maybe there is somebody else. But you know what, Rachel? You'll never know unless you take that particular chance. So I strongly advocate for the Broncos to take a younger quarterback somewhere in the middle rounds. I know it's not about 2023. I know it's this roll of the dice with Russ. And, Sean Payton is the number one sought-out coaching candidate this year. So, listen, you can't really argue if the Broncos secure the number one coaching candidate out there. That probably gives you the best chance. I'm rolling my eyes at it. Best chance of success. So I'm all in with Sean Payton. I don't care about the draft pick at all. And hopefully Greg Penner, it's a sales job two ways. He has to sell Greg Penner, and Greg Penner has to sell him. There's a little bit of both. So I think it's good they're going out to California. It's a good way to show, hey, we love you. We want you. Here you go. And we'll probably know the next head coach of the Broncos. I think Stokely was right. It'll probably get leaked out next Sunday, and we'll probably meet him in person on the 23rd.
You think?
Yeah, I do. Rachel, there won't be anything else to know. That it'll be done. You won't need a second interview. You won't.
That's true. I just find it hard to believe that they would drop it on, a playoff Sunday. I feel like you would want all the attention to be kind of focused around you.
They leak it out, and then they get all the attention the next day. They get the press. Well, listen, Rachel, there's going to be head coaches hired this week. I mean, there's 5 teams hiring head coaches.
Does Evero get hired this week?
No. Maybe, because Houston's going to interview Sean Payton later this week. I think Evero's interviewing with them tomorrow, maybe.
Right.
Even today.
Sean Payton yesterday.
Oh, he already interviewed yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Evero, his best shot is the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
I think Evero's best shot is the Texans. And I think that could happen this week.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, a first-time coach, Rachel, it's so hard to predict a first-time coach getting a job. Sean Payton would have to turn down the Texans. That's such a good question. Because if Sean Payton turns down the Texans, and we know that, then it's just a matter of time before he accepts the Broncos or the Panthers. And I would assume that's a good question. I don't know. How about that? For an honest answer, I really don't know. I can't. You know what? This is interesting, Rachel. You may see some time taken here because where Sean Payton goes is kind of a domino for a few other teams.
Uh-huh.
So it may take a little bit of time. I think the first team that will probably announce a coach is probably Indy, and it'll be, something interesting. It's Jim Irsay. It won't be Sean Payton. I think the second team will be the Cardinals. They probably won't wait. And then I think the remaining 3 teams will wait to see what Sean Payton does. So likely that's probably next week.
Okay. Next week. We'll see. We'll mark that down on the calendar. I hope after Monday. Lots of people, though, in the comments are wanting to talk about the Denver Nuggets and Jokic with the game winner. Tell me how freaking cool was it?
Oh, it was amazing. You're playing you're playing the Magic, who are a 16-win team, and they've got Gary Harrison, Bol. So on the surface, it looks like, this is a nothing game. Rachel, the Nuggets are up 15 at halftime. Get ready for the slaughter, right? Mm-hmm. And then they just came out flat. And it was just good for the Magic. They are a much better team than their record indicates. Specifically, Bol, who had 17 points in 18 minutes. In fact, he dunked on Jokic a couple times. After the game, Jokic said he talked to Bol and said, if you dunk on me again, I'm going to... And then it got a little graphic, Rachel. I'm not going to lie. I think what he meant to say is, I'm going to mess him up. And instead, it came across differently. But when you see an amazing reaction, non-reaction, look at Jokic drilling the drop back. The crowd sold out, packed, Rachel. Absolutely explodes. And no reaction from Jokic. None. So before he came out to the media, we were joking around like, watch. He's going to say, how does it feel to hit that basket? Oh, it feels good. And sure enough, I asked him, how does it feel? He goes, it feels good. I mean, there's just like, Rachel, it's comical. It is comical.
Do you think if they win a national or a championship, we will actually see Jokic celebrate?
I think it's what Jokic expects. So I think there'll be a degree of happiness because I think there's a degree of happiness with everything. But there's also this unbelievable degree of professionalism that he is not surprised by success. He's not. It's not shocking to him that he can make a step back 3-pointer. And it doesn't matter what the situation is because he's done it so many times. Getting a triple-double is no big deal to him because he's done it so many times. Rachel, this guy is just locked in. He doesn't feel nerves the way most people do, and he doesn't care about personal glory the way most athletes do. It is a ridiculous combination. He is the ideal teammate and the best player in the NBA, and your Denver Nuggets are the best team in the NBA. They have 3 games in 4 nights, starting with tonight, Portland,
Yep.
They play Wednesday at home and then the day off and then Friday. So we got a lot of Nuggets basketball here in Denver this week. I just want to tell everybody and anybody, if you're not on board this train, get yourself there. Buy a ticket.
Enjoy this because it doesn't happen very often. They take on the Grizzlies on Wednesday, right?
Oh, shoot. I don't even know. Is that right?
I'm pretty sure. That's a really good game. Let's see.
That's
no, Jake said no. Game. I lied to you. I'm sorry. I lied to you. I thought they took on the Grizzlies. I lied to you. I thought they took on the Grizzlies on Wednesday, but they do not apparently. So hold on. Jake has the answers for everything. The Wolves. They take on the Wolves on Thursday.
It's not the Grizzlies, but it is a form of outdoor animal.
It is. I was semi-close. I'm thinking of Tim Connolly, that connection there. When I was thinking David Roddy, the CSU connection, it all gets kind of tied together when you think about it. Sports
Rachel,
are sports.
The fact I know that they were playing the Blazers tonight is a freaking miracle. And clearly I did not know who they were playing yesterday. Hey, real quick, how about your Avalanche bouncing back as well?
Finally.
I know. And let me tell you, in the locker room yesterday, Rachel, a whole new vibe. Man, it was bad against the Panthers. That was terrible against Chicago. They had a delayed practice the other day, which is code for team meeting. And I think they just had a look in the mirror sort of moment. They scored 12 unanswered goals until they gave up, they're up 5-0, Rachel. And they gave up a couple of crappy little goals to the Red Wings. Who cares? They feel like themselves all over again. And they started Frankie 3 games in a row. And they went to 11 forwards and 7D. And that means Mikko Rantanen and other top players are playing with lower players, getting your better players on the ice a little bit more often and supporting the lower level lines. And you just go with the goalie, who frankly they probably believe in a little bit more than Georgie, and that's Frankie. And I expect Georgie to start in Calgary tomorrow, or Thursday, whatever day they play, I think. I think that's actually Thursday, but whatever. They feel like themselves, and that's a good feeling too. So we have had unbelievable action at Ball Arena, night after night, between the Nuggets and Avalanche, one sold-out crowd after another. And while we're all very tuned into the Broncos coaching search, I just don't want it to be forgotten about how much excitement is going on with the 2 other teams that are playing right now.
I'm totally with you. If you haven't gotten a ticket to see honestly the Avs or the Nuggets, it is worth it. The environment has been so much fun for both teams. And like you said, DMAC, if you're not on board with this Nuggets team, get on board now because only good things are coming. The playoffs are going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to it, just like I'm looking forward to hanging out with you again tomorrow morning. Sound good?
Rachel, it sounds good. Just for the record, I need to know, as you go to the stock show, who's your favorite bull of all time?
Seriously, I'm debating going and getting a cowboy cowgirl hat. I don't know what you say for me. My favorite bull of all time. There's got to be one named like Thunder or something out there. So Thunder's going to be my winner. I'll let you know tomorrow who impressed me the most. Got it?
My favorite bull of all time is Bocephus.
Okay. You look so ridiculous right now. By the way, everyone is letting you know that they love your cats in the background. Always a pleasure, DMAC. Thank you to everybody, too, for hanging out with us here on Coffee Break. Please come back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Drop in the comments. Give us a nice little hello, and we will see you guys then. Bye, everybody. Cheers.